how to finally draw on Google Slides. So this means instead of using an iPad screen recording, I can record directly from my computer, which I'm very happy about. So this video is on my plan to break free, meaning my plan to break free from the 9 to 5 life, the monotonous loop of going into work and basically being stuck in a job which you do not want to be, in a place that you do not want to be in. So, the problem, okay? The problem is what we need to figure out first. It's how we actually identify where we need to escape from. So, the schooling system itself was designed by Prussia. Prussia is a historic German empire in which the school system was designed to create obedience and loyalty from our employees and our students, which is, of course, good for the economy because it creates productivity and obedience, good for the higher ups, but not good for us. So therefore, we must identify this and escape this. As you can see, the goal is to create obedience, right? Obedience means they can control us and therefore they can make money out of us and we will basically shut up and sit down. So another way that they create obedience is through debt and keeping us in the poverty loop. You see, this same school system was designed in a way in which not particularly many families can afford it. You know, the high income, yes, they can afford school, no debt needed, but for anyone who's trying to escape that poverty loop, who are the people who do not have the money, and likely are the people more bothered about going to university or school to get that better education, are the ones who have to finance through this debt, and then they are stuck in this poverty loop. The idea is that throughout your life you keep working to pay off this debt, the same debt in which interest is high and therefore we pay back more than we actually took out. Say you take out £100,000 loan, you actually pay back another £90,000, making it £190,000 that you pay back. So we work our whole life, okay? We work our whole life to pay off the debt, and then what happens? You know, you have an objectively successful life. You've paid off your debt. You get a decent job. You work, you earn, you save. So now we have no debt. But then what happens? You end up dying. You know, you have your kids. It's just the plain truth. You have your kids, and then you get taxed. It's the simple system. You work this much, and then you come back down to this much. So then your kids, they might never even get to that place. So you kind of just get stuck, fluctuating in economic prosperity just from tax. So first you get in debt, which you have to pay more back by working more, and then you get taxed. So then the kids now have to work more because they don't have as much as you had in the inheritance, keeping you in this loop. What does it remind you of? A hamster wheel. We are basically animals in a pen who are getting forced into a loop, which we did not have a choice whether we were born into or raised around. Although I get the system, I understand why it was created by Prussia in this way. It must be this way because of how economies work. You know, we need these workers, low-skilled workers, you know, just middle class, people who work daily, work hard, produce in the economy. However, that doesn't mean we have to perform. It doesn't mean I have to conform. So therefore, this is how I'm going to escape this. So firstly, mindset is one of the main limiting factors I have found within my journey of escaping. Particularly in a school system, teachers are by far the most limited in terms of belief people I have ever met. Any ambition you have that is not related to university or grades, they literally shut you down instantly. I'm getting A's, A stars in my schooling, and although I'm not interested, they somewhat stay off my back because of these grades. But before, when I was getting, B's, C's, and I wasn't trying as hard, they'd be, what are you actually going to do? You're not going to make it doing business. You're not going to make it out doing something else. When I told them I wanted to own a casino in a hot country, all they did was practically attack me and put me down, limiting beliefs. So we must eliminate these to then raise your mental state to a point of which you know you can escape. For some people, it was wired into you by parents. Some do not mean to. I mean, for me personally, I know that my mum, she wanted the best for me, but what she wants and what she thinks is the best is not necessarily the best. You know, she has quite a myopic view, a narrow view, where she only sees what she believes and what experience she's had, which is understandable, but again, she can't see the possibilities in life. You know, she is also stuck in this loop. Having fear of money and fear of failure. These are two core beliefs which I find limit anyone who wants to escape but can't. The fear of failure, going out of your 9 to 5, leaving a secure job, trying to start a business, trying to start a side hustle. The fear of failure limits so many people. However, the way I see it is that if you fail, what is the other option? You go back and you get to work. So, plan A, right, for me, is create a business. Okay? So, plan A is create a business. For most people, plan B is to work. We'll just put W for work. If my plan A fails, what am I doing? Plan B, which is everyone else's plan A. So there is no risk. Eliminate the risk. There is clearly no risk. My plan A is their plan B sort of thing. My plan B is their plan A even. So how do we do this? It comes through hard work and discipline. You know, you must break these beliefs, but to do so, you must take action to actually ensure your mind can handle this and actually break those chains. This comes through discipline and hard work. I'm talking about the gym, projects, working on yourself, self-development, anything where a goal gets achieved, which raises your mindset and realizes you can achieve what you set your mind to, which then in turn shifts those beliefs. Next up, we must go against the grain. You see, that same analogy where, you know, you're an animal in a pen or a hamster on a wheel, if you follow all the sheep in the herd, you're going to end up at the same destination, which is being herded up, rounded up by the sheepdog or the farmer, for example. The equivalent is that by following the natural path, by following what you've been told is normal, you will end up with normal results. If you want extreme results, or if you want exceptional results, you must be different. You must be extreme in your nature. So most people are working 9 to 5. They are saving. They are taking gap years. So working 9 to 5, I understand. However, it's the working 9 to 5 for the whole week, maybe 6 days a week, long shifts, where you don't actually have enough time to escape this cycle. Again, this is the way that the world has been designed, so then you cannot save up and you cannot retire early. You must work till, you know, the ripe old age of fucking 65. That is old. You might literally die by then. You might have 10 years left. That's not a joke. People work their whole lives. Saving, I don't believe saving will get you rich. Think about it. For most people, especially on lower incomes and who don't save really aggressively, you know, oh, I'm going to save my tenner here and there. They might end up with $2,000 at the end of the year. It's not going to get you rich. You're not going to retire with that. Maybe if you save it and then invest it, and I'm not talking about stocks and shares, because although, you know, it's a good investment and don't put all your eggs in one basket, investing in stocks and shares is limiting to the growth of the shares, whereas investing in yourself and your education basically makes the growth limitless. So gap years as well, similar to these, is something that I really do not advocate for. Especially, so you're leaving school, especially when you don't particularly have a lot of money, especially if you don't come from a prosperic background, okay? Taking a gap year where you go and spunk your life savings or 4 years worth of savings that you've been working for prior to leaving school, you then go and spunk it so you can travel around Asia. I'm not saying traveling is bad, but I'm saying it's unsustainable, and then you get stuck again in this 9 to 5 loop. So what must we do? We must do the opposite, clearly. If they do A and they get B, we must do C to get D, sort of thing. We must do something different to get different results. So yes, we might have to work, but work less. My design is to work personally only 3 days a week, okay, it may mean that initially my life quality and the amount of disposable income I have is lower. However, it means I have the extra time because you want to trade your money for time, not time for money. So therefore, I will have more time to work on extra projects, which will then in turn generate me more money. So, like I say here, you'll only work for 2 to 3 days a week to give 4 to 5 days of leverage. Leverage is key here, leveraging your time to then expand your earning so then you're not restricted by how much time you have. I do not agree with uni, only if you don't have a path. I can understand if you have a passion for medicine, for example, and you truly want to go down that path, and therefore you go to a good uni, you get a medical degree, and then you go out into the workforce. Fine. If you don't have a path, and if people around you are telling you to go to uni, and that's not what you specifically want to do, then no, don't force it. That is not your path. You do not have to go down that same path if you have not chosen it. They will try to suppress you. So this goes for everything. Working 9 to 5, not doing a gap year, not actually saving. Everyone will try to suppress you. They are stuck in this loop, which means they cannot see past it. And I understand, because if you cannot see past it, how are you meant to say otherwise? You know, you're stuck to your beliefs, which is why we are shifting our beliefs and then staying true to them. Okay? That's why the slide comes before about shifting your beliefs. If you believe that you can do anything and you are true to it and you genuinely believe that, then you will have no doubts and no fears that you can go off and break this cycle and therefore improve your life long term. Money, okay? Money is the leverage. Here's where things really get interesting. You want to make your money work for you, not that same saying where you trade your time for money, not your money for time. That idea of you want to actually buy back your time and then therefore make your money work for you, which not increases your time, because that's the one thing we can't buy, but it increases the time that you have for other things that you don't want to do, meaning work or specifically monotonous work that you are forced into just so then you can live. So in this case, it's when you're starting. I will not actually be spending on anything or particularly shit, you know. There's stuff you do need, occasional haircuts, but you know, I limit them less just so then I have that extra money. Not bullshit video games, nights out. You know, this has been a tough one for me, tough pill to swallow. My friends have literally just invited me on a night out as I make this video. And yes, it's tempting, but I said, you know, I'm having a sober 2026 and I don't have particularly the money that I want to have right now, so therefore I'm not willing to spend that money right now. So I'm going to invest in myself. You know, it's a tough pill, but I'm going to invest time in myself and the money elsewhere, rather than spending it on a night out, which half the time you don't even remember because you were drunk. So when bigger, you must then scale and make this money work for you. So, for example, the best example is a barber shop, okay? A barber shop often is owned by a sole person, right? Let's say these are the chairs. So this is the barber shop. He makes, you know, £15 a haircut, okay? Then there's another, and another. So there's 3 more, right? They all make 15. He takes half, so he makes £7.50. £7.50. Okay, so £22.50, and then he also makes his 15. So 22.50 plus 15. So 37.50 is what he makes. Okay. So then what he must do is reduce the time he spends here, just wasting his time, because therefore he cannot scale, and he must initially lower that income back to 22.50 and then spend time investing in another shop where he opens and opening another, you know, 3 chairs where he doesn't work, he only manages these. So now he's got 15 sort of thing, 15 on all of them, right? Which means although he was making 15 here, he makes 7.50, 7.50, 7.50. So he's making an extra £7.50 whilst completely eliminating the time that he spends barbering allowing him freedom and extra income. This is the idea of scaling. Scaling is the key to actually unlocking that financial freedom, because it means people work for you and your money works for you, meaning whilst you rest, your money grows, which is the absolute goal. So you can see here I've said work when asleep is the goal. Exactly what I'm talking about. So my ideas for that is content. So content is very important, I believe, because it's something that can grow whilst you sleep. For example, views. When you wake up in the morning, your views are 1 higher or 100 higher, for example. It's growing whilst you sleep. It's always out there working for you. Business, if you hire people, this is how you can also scale. Another one that I will be looking into. This helps with the scale. Employees, that's core to both business and content, because if you have an employee who's editing your content whilst you sleep, again, more volume, more output, working whilst you sleep. Investments, initially, tough one, because if you don't have the income, how are you supposed to invest? But, starting small, starting early is not necessarily awful. Just don't put all of your disposable income into investments, because that's how you get stuck. And then one thing that I've seen that's worked very well is the idea of clippers or people who are promoting your video on TikTok. So the RizGPT founder or any streamer, clippers, who get you hundreds, thousands, millions of views overnight whilst you sleep, and then you pay them a fraction of what you make. It's a massively scalable business model, and therefore it is very good. So that is how we are going to create more money and work when we're asleep. So, location. So for me, tying myself to one location is very detrimental, because it means we get stuck within the conforms of our government, right? Everyone says it, get to Dubai, get to Thailand. I don't hear as much about Georgia, which I'll explain in a second. So Dubai, simple, lower tax, arguably actually a strict government, but only if you're, bad, if you're actually on a good path and, got good lawyers and not doing anything under the book sort of thing, you'll be fine there. Good one. Digital nomad visa if you can get that. Thailand, similar one. Low cost of living, somewhere, in my eyes, it's somewhere you can not hide out, but if I was getting chased in the UK by the government for crashing a car or doing some stupid shit, I just feel like I'd go live in Thailand. I'd get a villa, not necessarily off the books. Again, you don't want to go to another country and disrupt their economy, because then, bad things happen, basically. You get fucked. But, Thailand, for example, if I went out to Thailand for 6 months and I needed to escape the UK, right, I'd probably get talked to by police a couple times. You just pay them off. It's, it's not that I'm advising this, but it's a potential workaround for a lot of people. And it's just a common thing that happens. More payable off police. It's cheap. You just go live there for 6 months. Let things die down. And then my favourite one, actually, is Georgia. Beautiful country. Fairly low cost of living. Great tax. And actually quite an easy visa to acquire, I believe. I think it's maybe one of the cheapest ones, or there's a good one for, again, digital visas. And it's also got the cheapest investment. So when I'm talking about investing, this is where I'd say investing. It's investing in property in Georgia, which gives you that locational freedom. There's also other reasons, sun, and then also it just means you're less controlled by one government. It's that typical Tate video where he says, I've got 9 driving licenses or passports. I get banned from driving in the UK. They take my license. I'll just drive on my other one. I'll just give them a Thai fucking license. They take that. I don't care. So, personally, I'm going to be purchasing an apartment and then looking to relocate for visas long term. So, I'm purchasing one in Manchester, likely, and then long term, I'd probably pivot to grow my portfolio and either keep the one in Manchester or just relocate full time to somewhere like Georgia, so then I can benefit from that long term visa. Yes, I can come back to the UK and gain dual citizenship, but long term, it would be more beneficial for me to move away for 4 years and therefore come back basically stronger, delayed gratification, and therefore have less, restrictions by one singular government. So, this is the end of this video. It was a very simple guide on how to actually escape and gain your freedom back. And everything on this channel actually links back to this one video, because everything I do is in the hope of making a better life and also escaping. You know, when I talk about a better life, I am talking about being able to be free, meaning I can sit anywhere and do anything and nobody can tell me what I can do. That is to me freedom. So I'll end this video here, but check out the channel for more.